Welcome back to Alien Agenda with Colonel G. Today, we'll explore two lesser-known UFO crash reports, one from 1941 and another from 1953, both surrounding the infamous Roswell incident. We'll uncover the eerie events involving mysterious craft and beings, hidden evidence, and military cover-up. Join us as we dive into these intriguing stories, shedding light on encounters that continue to challenge our understanding of what's really out there. Here's Colonel G.
Today, we will take a deep dive into two lesser-known reports of UFO crashes. One, 6 years before Roswell, and the other about 6 years after Roswell. In late April 1941, a 52-year-old Reverend William Guy Hoffman Sr. was resting in his home in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, when he received a telephone call of a possible plane crash. The Reverend was asked to go out to the site and give the last rites for any dead that may have needed it. He agreed to accompany the police officer and was picked up outside his home and driven to the crash site. When Hoffman and the police officer arrived about 9:30 p.m., the fire department and numerous residents were already at the site. Reverend Hoffman and the other officer parked their car and walked the rest of the way to the crash site. Rather than the expected airplane and injured passengers, they found a strange-looking craft, along with what seemed to be three small bodies that resembled children but with large heads. The bodies had a gray coloration, and they had long arms and did not appear to be injured. However, two of these entities had apparently died, and a third was, although still alive, having difficulty breathing, and was completely unable to communicate. Reverend Hoffman approached the surviving entity and performed the last rites. The crash craft was a shiny, burnished color nickel. It had no wings, it was smooth, and bereft of any markings of rivets or welds, just a smooth metal exterior. The interior was the same color as the outside, with three small seats that looked like they might be made for children of a similar size to the three crash victims. Also inside was a band of symbols in small gauges. The symbols resembled Egyptian hieroglyphics, but they were not any language those that inspected the wreck recognized. There was no sign as to why the craft had crashed, and there were no reported electrical storms that had taken place in the area at the time of the crash. Several locals, including one Gerald Froneberger, a newspaper photographer at the Southeast Missourian newspaper, was busy taking pictures with his speed graphic camera. Two men in suits held up one of the dead entities between them, while Froneberger took a small Kodak 4A camera out of his pocket and snapped one picture of them with the body. Soon after, a contingent of military arrived and ordered everyone to turn over anything they had taken from the site. The military officers also confiscated the speed graphic camera from the press, but they did not find or seize the Kodak 4A camera that Froninger had in his pocket and that he used to take the pictures of the men with the corpse. Everyone at the site said, or was told rather, this never happened, and was sworn to absolute secrecy. When Reverend Hoffman returned home, his family could see that this normally calm man was distraught and shaken. After he collected himself, Hoffman sat down with his family and told them about the bizarre experience at the crash site. He told them that after this recounting of the event, that he would never speak of that again. Roughly 2 weeks after the crash, a man that is believed to be Froneberger appeared at the Hoffman home and handed Hoffman a 3x4 black and white photo of the dead creature held between the two men in suits. He said he wanted to have a safeguarded copy of the photo and indicated that he did have more copies of the picture as well. The photograph remained with the Hoffman family until 1953, when the Reverend Hoffman agreed to allow a family friend, Walter Wayne Fisk to borrow the photo for authentication and to show his parents. Fisk promised to return the photo, but never did. Later, it was found that Fisk was affiliated with the U.S. military intelligence. The existence of the picture was confirmed by the Reverend Hoffman's granddaughter, Charlotte Hoffman Mann, who said she saw the picture at least on 20 occasions prior to 1953. In 1990, UFO authors Stanton Friedman and Ryan Wood tracked down the aging Fisk at his home, where he denied any knowledge of this photograph. To this day, no copy of the dead alien photograph has ever been found. Now we will skip ahead to May 21st, 1953, to a desolate area near Kingman, Arizona. At this time, the Atomic Energy Commission was conducting a series of nuclear weapons tests called Upshot Keyhole at a site in Nevada. At the time these tests were taking place, witnesses reported seeing at least 8 saucer-like aircraft across the state line in Arizona. Records of USO sightings at that time and after the dropping the bomb on Japan showed a surge, mostly over nuclear sites, of UFO aircraft. One night in May, Henry Drew, a historian and museum director, reported that 3 UFOs crashed near Kingman. Drew claimed 2 of the crafts were obliterated and destroyed, but that the third was found intact. Drew said the military surrounded the crash site and stayed there until the recovery team had fully removed all the debris and spaceships into a base in Nevada. Some speculate that the nuclear tests caused the crash, but Drew believed that they were caused by a very intense, powerful, and experimental radar setup that existed in the area. Years later, examination of this remote site where the craft supposedly hit the ground found that the area was covered with military-issued food containers that were dated back to 1953. A test site technician by the name of Arthur Stanzel said in May 1953 he and other team members were taken from Indian Springs to a remote area in Arizona to recover a secret craft. Stanzel said the downed craft was far beyond any known technology at that time on Earth. There was another eyewitness who was given the pseudonym of Fritz Werner to protect his identity. He was later identified, however, as Arthur G. Stanzel, who was a highly qualified engineer with an extensive track record and dossier. Werner said he received a call from his boss, Dr. Edward Dahl, who said that he had a special assignment which would take him to Kingman, Arizona. When he arrived, military police escorted him to the crash site. Werner said the crash was a saucer-like vehicle about 30 feet in diameter with a black band encircling it in the center of the top. It looked like dull polished aluminum, and there was no visible damage to the craft. There was a curved hatch. It was open, and a brightly glowing light seemed to be coming from inside the ship. Part of the craft was partially buried in the ground. Werner said a 4-foot dead humanoid dressed in silver clothing with a tight-fitting cap was there on the ground. The face was exposed and was dark brown. It was believed that the color was because of the interaction with the atmosphere. Werner was accompanied by other technicians to the crash site. They were instructed not to talk with each other. However, Werner managed to talk to one of the technicians who got a look inside the spacecraft. He said he saw 2 chairs that appeared to swivel, some instruments, and a screen. When one of the sentries heard them talking, they were instructed to be quiet. A monograph, Retrievals of the Third Kind, by ufologist Charles Wilhelm, claimed a member of the military known as Major Daly was flown to Kingman in 1953 to study the remains of a crashed saucer. The major said the craft was about 30 feet in diameter and did not appear to be damaged. He spent 2 days studying the metal on the ship and said was not of this earth. He was not allowed to enter the ship, but said that it had a hatch about 4 to 5 feet high, and about 2 to 3 feet wide. A sergeant who worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base claimed he saw the bodies of aliens in the office at the time of this reported crash. At first, his story was thought to be untrue until the base commander, Colonel Pratt S. Brown, had the sergeant sign a non-disclosure agreement. He also told him that if he said anything further about this incident or what he had seen, he could expect 20 years in jail and a $20,000 fine. The wife of a military officer, Judy Walcroft, got a letter from her husband who was in Vietnam in the mid-60s. He was afraid he was not coming home from that war. He claimed in 1953 he was on duty in a control tower and saw an object lose altitude and disappear from the screen. He said some of the military police began talking about a crash. He and some of the others left the base in a jeep and discovered a dome-shaped disc partially stuck in the ground. It did not appear to have any external damage. However, before they were able to reach the actual spacecraft, MPs arrived and ordered them to leave the area. They escorted them back to the base. Others that saw the saucer were told nothing happened. They did not see anything, and they were forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement. These are 2 more reports, folks, of alien spaceship crashes that have not received the attention that Roswell has gotten. However, many of the details are very similar to what has been reported about the 1947 Roswell crash, which we will look into in future episodes of Alien Agenda. Again, I hope you enjoyed this episode and will tell your friends about my podcast. If anyone has first-hand experience with UFOs and would like to become part of Alien Agenda, please contact my publicist, Deborah Wallace. Until the next time, this is Colonel Gene saying goodbye for now, and please stay safe.